Yes guys, welcome back. We're going to do another athletic physique video for busy guys. This one specifically is going to be advanced training techniques for time poor men. I basically want to show you how to train more effectively with less time, because the number one thing I see with my clients and with guys is that they're stuck in this phase of what I call identity lag. They have this belief system around their training that they need to train like they did in the 20s. Maybe you can relate to thinking, okay, I need to do 20 sets per session, 5, 6, 7, 8 different exercises, and it's all bollocks really. What I want to help you guys do is cut through the bullshit and have a good understanding and concept around some key training techniques that are going to allow you to build more muscle, train with intensity, improve your training quality, and do it in less time so that you can be more consistent. Because as we know from everything else that we talk about, consistency is going to be the driver of your results. So we're just going to run through a quick warm-up. I'm not going to actually talk through every single exercise because I do the same warm-up for myself based on my limitations, based on my weak areas, just like my clients. But if you do want to check out the rundown of the why, the theory, and the exercises that we do, you can check out the previous athletic physique video where I kind of go into things in a little bit more depth and we explain things in more detail. So I'm just going to quickly run through this warm-up and then we'll get into the session. Yeah, so one of the main things that we're going to run through today in the session, you know me, I love doing a hang, decompressing when you sat at a desk, is I'm going to take myself through one of our lower body sessions, the one that's in my program right now, and I'm just going to basically tailor the advanced training techniques or extended sets to all the exercises through my normal session. So you get a good demo of how to execute things effectively, a bit of the theory behind them, and the three most common ones that I use in my client programs. So there's a concept that I want to talk about called the fitness fatigue paradigm. So most guys think, like I said, stuck in this identity lag of wanting to do so much volume, sets, reps, exercises, that it's just junk volume and you don't recover. And then when you don't recover, you're too tired at work, training becomes inconsistent, and then you don't go. So, you know, you peak, you go balls to the wall really hard, and then you crash. Typical Marbella here in the Lamborghinis flying past. And then you crash and you're less consistent. So you've heard me talk about that concept before, Nick Barr, being consistently good versus occasionally great, and that's what we're looking for. So when we're talking about a fitness fatigue paradigm, there's basically two focuses of the session. Most people focus on the fatigue element. They go in, they're trying to train as much as they can, as hard as they can to drive fatigue. But what we want is there's two outcomes from a session. There's the fitness component, the development, the progression, the adaptation, where you get stronger, you get fitter, you get more skill-based, maybe more mobile. And then there's the fatigue element, which is, again, an adaptation, but it's the stress, it's thinking about the tiredness in muscles, the effect that it has on your nervous system, your joints, just generally how you feel. And if fitness outweighs fatigue, we get the adaptation, we get better. But if the main outcome from the session is fatigue over fitness, we tend to struggle to get stronger. We generally feel beat up between sessions, and sometimes we can even regress. So if you're hitting plateaus, it might be a training sign, or a sign with your training, that your recoverability, you're just not recovering enough between sessions. So this is why when guys first jump into the program with me, we introduce them to that concept of minimal effective dose, you know, the least amount of training volume necessary to create adaptation so we can manage fatigue appropriately. Your energy is better for work, so you can perform better, no more midday slumps. You build a physique and you can be more consistent. You leave the gym feeling energized. And that's a really, really important thing for my guys specifically, who are all business owners, corporate execs, entrepreneurs, that energy management. So when we're looking at like an example of what that would be, like today I'm training legs. So say you train legs on a Monday and Tuesday you're going to feel sore, you're going to feel a little bit sluggish. But by Wednesday the fatigue drops a little bit, and that fitness component, that adaptation of fitness, super compensates, you recover, you grow back bigger, faster, stronger. But if you then went to train legs again too soon, it's going to have an adverse effect on that adaptation. And what that means is then you're kind of training too soon. And I find with natural guys specifically, 3 to 4 days is optimal. So this is why I massively moved away from body part splits, from push-pull leg splits specifically, and train mostly full body or upper lower with my clients, because if you think of that 3 to 4 day window, say you train on a Monday, you train an upper session, and it's 3 to 4 days, you can then do another upper session by the end of the week. If you're just doing chest and you absolutely hammer it, and you got to wait 7 days all the way to your next session, you're missing out on training again when you're actually ready. So if we train upper lower splits or we train full body, that muscle group is getting multiple exposures over the space of a 7-day period compared to just once per week. So you'll grow more muscle because you're recovering, you're adapting, and you're ready to go and you're training again. So that's just something I want you to think about with your training splits, but also your recoverability as well. Are you just hammering a body part for the sake of it, not recovering, and then wait until next week? Or would you rather train smart, recover properly, train effectively in less sets and reps, which is how we're going to show you to train now, and then you can train more frequently, recover, and get a better physique. Okay, I'm warm, that's 4 or 5 minutes. Let's get into it. We usually have some kind of like squat of choice or hinge of choice, just based on personal preference, how you engage with certain movement patterns. For me, like lifting off the floor, these days I don't find it as great for my posterior chain. I don't feel as engaged in my hamstrings. So for me, just doing like a top down Romanian deadlift all the way to the floor, this allows me to isolate my hamstrings, my glutes a little bit better, and keep resilient. So the 3 advanced training techniques or extended sets that we're going to run through today is rest pause, supersets, and drop sets, or rest pause, drop sets, supersets. We're going to use a rest pause on here first. So the concept of it is, you're building up to a top set. A lot of guys use a lot of junk volume again, use that term a lot, of too many warm-up sets. You need 1 or 2 priming sets, going through the loads enough to get to your working weight where you're not just doing extra reps for the sake of it. So I'll probably use a working weight here of anything north of 100 kilos. So I want to be maybe going bar 60 kilos or 40 kilos, 70 kilos, 100, just 2 warm-up sets, 2 priming sets, and then I'm into my working sets. So we can do 1 working set, and then on the second set, we can implement the rest pause, and I'll talk you through that once we get to it. But first, let's get warmed up. So if I'm going to be working in anywhere between like 4 to 6 rep range here, I think anywhere between 4 and 8 is a great rep range to utilize rest pause sets, because what we tend to do is go heavier on that top set, and then we implement the rest pause afterwards. So we're getting multiple extended reps past that initial working set. So I don't like to do too many high reps here, because I like to get that mechanical tension and lift relatively heavy for rest pauses, because it allows you to get stronger quite quickly by using loads that perhaps you wouldn't be able to lift unless you use this advanced training principle. Feeling pretty good with them. I'm just going to double it straight up. My goal these days isn't strength. It's just about feeling good, keeping a respectable physique, and being injury free. That's my main focus with stuff. So the ego lifting, just for the sake of crunching numbers, is gone, and it's all just about engaging the right areas. So that was my first working set. I'm just going to do a rest pause on this next set. So we'll do anywhere between 4 and 6. So the way a rest pause will work to extend the set at the load that's at a good intensity, you want to be close to technical failure within that 4 to 6 rep range. Then take 5 deep breaths. Then we aim to do 3 more reps. We take another 5 deep breaths and rest, 2 more reps, and a final 5 breaths, and we aim for 1 more rep. So you're getting, if you're hitting near technical failure on that top set, you're getting an extra 6 reps at a weight that you technically failed at, just by adding those micro rests in. is a great way to get stronger. You can tell from my breath, we've flown through these. My heart rate is up, training effectively in a short space of time. Obviously, once we get to your working weight, where I'm only doing 2 sets, the first working set and the rest pause, because I'm very short on time today. But say you had 2-3 sets, you maybe do 2 working sets and a third rest pause set. Give yourself the full 60 to 90. If the goal is to get stronger, you still want to be recovering fully between sets to push the strength element. You want to be fully prepared before you go in again. So you can either do that by time. I usually go by heart rate. When my heart rate drops below 100 again, that's time to go. Like I said, I'm using my Garmin to track my heart rate for my rest time, so an understanding of like physical preparedness as opposed to mental, psychological preparedness. I would recommend anyone to get a Garmin or some kind of fitness tracker. I prefer Garmin because this Phoenix Pro is made of, I think it's steel, like I've had this years now, it's indestructible. But more importantly, it tracks not just your heart rate, you can log all your individual sessions on it so you can see how you're performing over time. You can see the improvements to key metrics like HRV, resting heart rate, all of these metrics that ultimately drive and determine longevity, which as a high performing guy, for most guys over the 30s, is the focus anyway. So that'd be my recommendation. So with this rest pause set, like I said, the focus is hit near technical failure. My grip's failing me a little bit. So get as many as I can between 4 to 6, 5 deep breaths, another 3, 5 deep breaths, another 2, 5 deep breaths, 1 more rep. And that'll be it for this exercise and that technique. Right, let's go. Right, yeah. That's 3. My personal opinion in using straps is it's not cheating, because you want to be training and loading the muscle that you're trying to train as hard as possible. I haven't got any with me today, which is why I switched to a mixed grip, but yeah, I think if you want to train your grip, do exercises that train your grip like carries, but personal preference. One more rep to go, and that's the rest pause set done. 3, 4, 5, right, let's go. That's it, so that's rest pause done. You can tell, shirt, sweating, heart rate's up, I've done a good amount of volume, 1 or 2 working sets, that's all you need. Okay, we're getting down towards the right heart rate now, so we're gonna move on to drop sets. My personal favorite, you guys will all have heard of drop sets or probably done some shape or form. There's different types that you can do. So with what I'm doing now in a big compound, multi-muscle joint exercises, most bang for your buck exercises, I'm gonna do a 40% drop on the first drop set. So we're gonna do 3 drops. So we're gonna use walking lunges. A lot of you guys will be used to doing drop sets on like pin loaded machines to isolate maybe quads, leg extensions, which are all great. You can do loads of drops on them. But when I'm doing big multi-joint movements like a lunge or a bench press or pull-ups, I like to keep it 1 big drop because you fatigue quite easily, and then around 40% from your first starting weight. And then 2 more drops, around 15% each. So I'm gonna go 25s, 40% is 15, and then another drop, I'm just gonna finish it off body weight. And the beauty about drop sets is you can still get quite a bit of volume in, but it's not junk volume, because if you were to do, say, 4 sets of 10 to 15, that's a lot of sets of individual with rest in between. Whereas this, you tend to hit that fatigue point on the first set and you're just continuing that work. So the lactate buildup is bigger, the metabolic stress is bigger, even the mechanical stress from the heavy first set is bigger. So you get a really, really good stimulus, but in 1 or 2 sets. So I'm gonna do 1 set just on its own, 1 working set to gauge the weight, and I'm gonna go straight into the triple drop set. Because these are relatively heavy, for me, using 25s, we're working, like my component and the output of this intensification phase is to get stronger, lift heavier weights. So we're working in the 6 to 8 range. So I'm gonna hit the lower threshold of that and do 6, so 6 each leg. In total, 12 reps. Oh yeah, we've got that about right. 168, fuck. Heart rate's there. Again, judging that physiological readiness, we'll wait to get down to about 110, 100 beats per minute with the heart rate before we hit this final drop set. I talked about going into your session about the mindset, the frame of mind of what you're trying to achieve. Is it fitness adaptation? Is it fatigue adaptation? Ideally, we want to be training the fitness adaptation, only doing enough volume to stimulate that, allow fatigue to be low, adaptability to be high. You recover, you come back stronger. But there's also about thinking, what's the purpose of the phase that you're in? Is it an accumulation? Is the idea to accumulate volume, sets, reps, total volume, slower tempos, earn the right to go into an intensification phase like I'm in now, where the rep ranges are lower? Intensity is the driver of adaptation, not volume, like in an accumulation phase. And really thinking, okay, how can I train with more intensity? Now these drop sets are perfect. So the rest pauses for intensity in either phase, but it's really going to depend on the rep ranges you're using. So accumulation, higher rep ranges, intensification phases, lower rep ranges. Okay, so we're going to go into it, triple drop set. When I used to watch YouTube when I was like 15, 16, and the OGs like Steve Cook used to always say long sleeve on leg day, because the upper body, all the blood's in your legs so you look skinny. Now, I don't really care how I look anymore, to be honest with you. I train, as I said, to be injury free, feel good. I look good a little bit, but I think it's something that's subconsciously stuck with me because here I am in a long sleeve. Okay, so we're gonna do the third extended set or advanced training technique that is the one everyone knows, supersets. How easy it is to condense a session, to condense exercises, the amount of work you're doing in half the time. So I have 2 individual exercises in this program. One is a lateral box step and the other is a 90-degree back raise, but I'm going to do a seated good morning just because there's not the GHR down here, so I'm just improvising it. Similar movement. Now there's 3 ways you can look at a superset. You can either just pair 2 exercises that target the same muscle group. So you might do, as an example for upper body, bench press straight into a fly, because you're going to pre-fatigue the chest on the first exercise and you're going to keep using that same muscle group in the second. That's the most common one. The second one is antagonistic muscle groups or movement patterns, so opposite. So for example, if I was doing a pull-up, which is a vertical pull, I could superset it with some form of overhead press variation. It's the opposite movement, right? So that's antagonistic supersets. Well, the third one, just for good old time-saving sake, is what I'm doing now, where you just pair 2 exercises together. So you do them back to back, no rest in between, and that way you're only resting once instead of twice. Brings the session time down a little bit, and you can just get a bit more of a elevated intensity in terms of heart rate. So that's what I'm going to do now. We're just going to go 5 reps each leg, and then we're going to go into 10 seated good mornings. Heart rate is still at 160, by the way. From just seated good morning, drop the bar a little bit further down the back. And that's the superset. I'm just going to do the one for that for the demo purposes. One more exercise, which is seated calf raises. We won't do them here, but that is how to go through session, build more muscle, less time, more intensity. Thinking about that focus as an overview, recap. You want the fitness paradigm adaptation to be fitness, not fatigue. So you're going into the session, how can I create the most fitness adaptation, quality reps, intensity, lower volume, so that you recover between sessions. And as always, if you need help with your programming, just reach out, have a read of the description in the bio, and get in touch, boys. Boom.